environmental issues in our city. I mean, if you look out at some of the research, there's over 200 sites that are contaminated, but a lot of those sites are very minor, a spill of this or that or the other. But right now, our focus, especially in Northeast Bel Air, is on the 29th and Grove contamination that has been caused by Union Pacific Railroad. Trichloroethylene is the chemical, the VOC that was not spilled. It's been labeled as a spill, but it was never a spill. It was misuse of a chemical that was used as a degreaser on a regular basis for their rail yard. In 1994, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment located that chemical, trichloroethylene, on 21st and Madison, which is, at that time, was Williams Gas Station. This was before the 21st Street redevelopment project that they were doing all their research. Well, when they discovered it there, they knew that it shouldn't have been there, and so they began an investigation, they being KDAG, to determine where it was coming from, what was the source. It took them from 1994 to 1998 to decide that that was coming from the Union Pacific Rail Yard. At that time, knowing how volatile and how highly carcinogenic that chemical is, they, meaning KDAG and Union Pacific, made a conscious decision not to inform the community.
Oh.
So this tragedy happened between the 70s and the 80s, is what's been determined. So by the time they found it, that was already nearly 2 decades. And they yet decided not to inform the community. 2020, we'll fast forward to 2022. How many, 3 more decades? September the 8th of 2022, Teresa Brown Foster. Most of you guys remember Teresa.
Of course.
She was my predecessor as the president. She was my mentor and my friend. She called me one day and said, Aujanae, she was watching the city council meeting. And she said, what is this they're talking about in meeting at Atwater concerning 29th and Grove contamination? I told her, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about any such thing. She said, neither have I, but one of us needs to find out. We need to be at that meeting. Because of her health, I made sure it was me at that meeting. There was approximately 6 other residents at that meeting. That meeting was facilitated by Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and Mary Daly was the geologist, was the facilitator. That meeting was actually a remediation meeting. They had 3 plans, and the community was to be able to comment on those 3 plans before one was actually implemented, and they intended to do it that same month of September. I told Ms. Daly, that's not possible, because first of all, you need to tell us what you're remediating and why, what happened. That's when it was told to us in that room that this trichloroethylene situation was detected in 1994, and that it had come from the rail yard, and since that time of not telling us, it had traveled 2.9 miles across the entire historically black community. So it goes from 29th, they say, in Grove, but the rail yard actually sits on Hillside, just south of the Kansas Humane Society, just south of Cruiser Lake or K96 Lake, or we know it by various names. However, when I went to all of our city officials, from our district Councilman Brandon Johnson, Bob Layton, our city manager, Olitha Faust-Goodell, our senator, our state representatives being KCO Hobson and Ford Carr. None of them knew anything about it.
Mm.
Brandon was at Atwater that particular day, and he decided he just left to go to the stadium to attend to some other matters without even sticking his head in the door and saying, you know, this is on my radar, but I have a conflict in my schedule. I have to take care of this, but know that I'm looking into this. Nothing. We got nothing. I called a emergency community meeting shortly thereafter, that following week. I don't remember the dates at the moment, and informed as many people as I could at that particular time. And we were all shocked and appalled. We've requested town hall meetings about it, and we've been treated indifferently, disrespectfully, and still not granted that town hall that we deserve as a community. Instead, we get what they call open house, something that myself, Representative Ford Carr, former Councilwoman Lavonta Williams, Elder Mary Dean, all had a meeting at Atwater with KDHE, Katie Gleason and Kate Gleason and a few others. Also, Terry Bucha from the city of Wichita, a couple of other people from the city of Wichita, representatives from Union Pacific, and we stated that we want a town hall so that the community can hear the same questions and answers and be on the same page in understanding what is happening and how this is impacting our community. They agreed to that, but then they showed up at the Boys and Girls Club with their open house system, meaning that they intended for us to go from table to table and ask questions, just like you would at a science fair. Write our concerns on a piece of paper, butcher block paper on the wall, or put it on a index card that they haven't even bothered to put a place for you to put your information for them to respond to your question. So what makes you think they're going to answer it? You know, they did that not once, but twice. They did it twice. One of those times I couldn't take it anymore. I let them know this is not what the community needs. This is not what we've asked for, and this is not acceptable. And I told the community, the residents of that community at that time, if you are not in line with Grace Med to get an appointment to go and get your health screened, and you're tired of the disrespect and the disregard, I think it's time to leave. And we all left. And they yet did it again. Following that, we have had no help from the city of Wichita or the Kansas Department of Health and Environment when it comes to finances. Venus Lee, before parting from Grace Med, without being asked, without being approached in any manner, went out and raised over $350,000, approximately $354,000 to be utilized for those people that were standing in line to have their health screened. The only other funds that have been incurred, Kansas Health Foundation, Ed O'Malley, they in 2022 set aside $400,000 for that purpose. However, only $50,000 of that was allocated by only $50,000 of that was allocated by Grace Med. This comes from Ed himself. I had this conversation with him. Only $50,000 of that was allocated by Grace Med for that purpose. The other $350,000 went back into their coffer and was used for other projects. In addition to that, they did give $50,000 to Hunter. They gave $50,000 to Health Corps and an additional $50,000 to Grace Meg. So we're looking at a total of about $500,000 that was not generated by the city or the county. Senator Oletha Faust-Cadow made the governor aware of the situation, and we applaud Governor Kelly because she said that it was not just the state's fault, but also the city and the county. They had failed the community by not informing us, by not getting engaged in solving the problem. And she put $1 million in the budget to be utilized for the screening and health screening and testing of people impacted in that area by this trichloroethylene's hazardous health situation. But she put stipulations with that. The House, Representative O'Hibison and Ford were able to allocate $1.25 million for the same purpose of health screening and testing of the community. But the stipulation that the governor put on those funds is that in order for if the first $1 million is considered a matching fund, for any of that money to be used, the 2.25 million to be used, the city, the county, collectively or individually, have to contribute $1 million. And she will not accept it from anywhere else because she says they need to bear the brunt of the responsibility because they share the brunt of the responsibility. Well, I understand that and I applaud her in that, but that stipulation, the city has not engaged in their agenda to even discuss it, nor has the county. They have put up no funds. There's another stipulation that money has to be allocated and spent by the end of June 2025.
Wow.
Even if we were to get it, there's no way it could be fully utilized in now less than 6 months. And the city and the county, like I said, have not put it on their agenda. They have, Brandon wants to say we're talking about it. Well, closed doors conversations, if it's not on the agenda to be voted on, to be taken care of, who are you talking to? The talks are irrelevant. Totally. They have allocated, the city has allocated $500,000, as we know, to install 2 public toilets downtown that we know will be vandalized because they're public toilets and they're downtown. That's going to happen. They have allocated $1.25 million into the budget at the new waterworks facility simply for a piece of artwork and still have not addressed the health of this community. And for them, they are the initiators of this problem, KDHE, because they should have alarmed, not just alerted, but sounded an alarm to the Northeast community. They should have been looking for wells and telling people don't use them. Did they do that? No. And we all know that up until 2023, and this only occurred because of this situation, you didn't have to have any permit or document to dig a well. Just dig one. So they could be everywhere. And we would think that there's no homes still plumbed to that well. Well, we found one that had been plumbed to the well since the 50s. They had lost approximately 8 people in their family to cancer and didn't know why. Now they do. They have since then plumbed their house to city water, of course, but those lives perhaps could have been saved simply by informing the community. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a current plan of action to remediate? You had talked about they were voting on the 3 plans and that maybe that was stopped, but is there a current plan happening?
The plan that they have initiated will take approximately another 13, 15 years.
Wow.
It has not even been implemented. It is still on the drawing table, pretty much.
So they picked one of the three plans that you discussed, and that's the one you're saying will take 13 years or more to implement. Okay.
There is a better way, a faster way, but of course it costs more. LaVonta Williams asked that question at one of those crazy meetings, and we were told that's why they didn't do it. It's too expensive. And we're saying, oh, okay, so our lives are not valuable enough for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has done such a thing to clean it up as quickly and as efficiently as possible?
Yeah, that's another question is, you've talked about city and county accountability. Has UPS had any financial ask in the accountability?
UP has admitted
Oh,
that,
sorry,
yes,
UP.
it's our rail yard. It's our baby. It came from here.
It's our degreasers.
Yeah, it came from here. They've admitted that. And it's not just the water that we have to aquifer that we have to be concerned about, because it turns into vapors and it comes into your homes and your edifices and your businesses through our heating and air conditioning systems, through sump pumps, through cracks and
Is it like radon?
Yes, it operates like radon as far as entry into your home. Yes. I have located, there's over 2,700 properties, I believe, from within that almost 3-mile section. They have chosen, UP and KDHE, they refuse to test my house, even though it's within the plume. They won't test anything north of 21st Street. And that makes no sense to me, because it got to our homes first. They built Gordon Parks on top of contaminated soil. KDHE was aware of it. They put what they call vapor barriers within the building and construction of the facility. But it has not stopped the vapors from entering the building.
So are there tests of it, like radon tests, are there similar tests for this chemical?
There's tests
vapor?
available, but they have went 10, 15 years without testing, even though they knew the situation. Yes.
So, but homeowners could order tests to see, like, again, like we do with radon.
Union Pacific, they have picked out a segment of 400 homes that they are willing to test. And so we're actually protesting that, because you can't pick one structure. Every structure is different. This house right here, or structure, may not contain TCE, but the one right next to it could.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a basement? Are there cracks? Does it have a crawl space? Is it on a slab? There's a lot of variations. There's too many variables to say, oh, well, we tested the ground over here and over there, so we're not going to worry about this segment of the population. And that's what they're doing. So that's what we're fighting at the time when it comes to the testing. The main thing that needs to happen is most of the community still is not aware, just like you guys weren't. You probably knew more about it than the community does, and that's because there's been no effort made by the city to alarm its citizens of this hazard, and they should.
There weren't door-to-door efforts
That's
made by...
Not for 2,700 homes. Like I told Brandon, going to 100 houses means nothing to me. Nothing. That's not even a drop in a bucket of water.
So
It
2,700 homes would be about $1,000 postage, which is not unreasonable,
it's
seems
nothing
like.
that the city cannot
Right.
afford. It's nothing that Union Pacific cannot afford.
Correct.
They hired community CML Collective, Christina and Jonathan Long, to engage the community, but that has not happened. And he hired them at the recommendation of Brandon. Well, why would you hire a marketing company to do such a job?
Because they're friends.
That's why.
Well, and marketing is communicate. I mean, I'm being
This is like having,
devil's
that's just
advocate.
like having, yeah, you are, because that's just like having open house. That's not going to solve the problem. Just like they hang little door knockers out there when they're gonna clean the sewer, they can hang little door knockers out there and say, you know what? You are living in a health hazard, and this is what it is. And it'd be nice if they could say, we've acknowledged what we've done, and there's funds available, and this is where you need to go to have your health screened. But they couldn't put that on there because they haven't done that. But they can make the population aware. And it's not just Northeast Wichita that needs to know, it's the entire city. Because people have moved from place to place to place. I might have lived here 20 years ago, but now I live in Bel Air, or now I live wherever, you know? And then I might have even left the country because I'm in the military.
My grandparents used to live up in that area, and then they moved out to Ridge Road.
That's what I'm saying. And that has happened with many families. So this is something that the whole city needs to be made aware of.
So if you had your top asks, because as you know, we're recording this to put on our YouTube page as WIN and to spread the word to other people in neighborhood associations, hopefully doing part of that work, hopefully. If you had your top asks of things that the county, city, UP, whoever it is that you'd be asking, if you had your top asks, what would they be?
I need the city and the county to come up with that money. I need them to care enough about this community to put it on their agenda.
Exactly
for
what
real.
money? How much money?
$1 million.
For
That's what
the
it's
for the
been.
governor's matching funds.
For the governor's matching
Yes,
fund.
ma'am.
That's crucial.
Yep.
They need to go back and renegotiate time. And I don't think they can do that because they're using ARPA money. Am I right, Miss Cindy?
That
If
does
you're
have a
using
time
ARPA
limit.
money, it has to be spent.
It does.
And that's what they're using.
Okay.
That's what the governor has.
So number one,
implemented.
county and city come up with $1 million to match the governor's money.
At this point, they need to come up with $2 million because she's not gonna have that ARPA money very long.
Okay. Is there another? I heard you talk about a town hall versus a open house.
Yes, and I spoke with Brandon about it many times. He has said that, because there is an entity that has been created, Northeast Accountability Council, created of ministers, association presidents, concerned residents, that longtime residents of the community. We welcome anyone that wants to be a part of the fight. We have engaged the EPA and the DOJ in this matter. Yeah.
And so you guys are organizing a town hall, or you're asking the city to organize a town? Help me understand how you want to do that town hall.
I have spoken with Brandon about it. He has said that if we come up with our questions, he will contact me sometime in February and we'll talk about it. I told him we'll see how what you do. If you do, great. But if he doesn't, we're not gonna let that prevent what we're doing.
Sure. Have you already given him questions then?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
have not put those questions in his hand. We've given him, he's heard the questions. Everybody's heard these questions a million times. Nothing's changed because we've never gotten any answers. You know, there's just more questions is, why did you not? Like, this money has been sitting in KDHE since early last spring. So why have you not addressed it? To the mayor, I say, where are you, Lily? Lily and I are alumni of the civic engagement class. We know each other on a more personal level before she became mayor. She came to every meeting that I facilitated concerning this situation when she was campaigning. I have not saw her in the community since. Where are you, Lily?
Are there any other big, we're getting close on time, and I just want to make sure, are there any other big asks in this issue that you want to get documented that you're
I'd
asking
like
for?
everybody to know that the Kansas Health Department did a health study that shows that death by cancer rate in that particular plume is twice as high as our entire state. I have also located a church within the plume that's 6 inches beneath the subsurface in their in their basement. The air is over 10 times safe for a human to breathe. The EPA scientist has already told us that it's not a matter of if it cracks, because it's concrete. Someday it will. And when it does, that edifice will no longer be usable. I have located 4 or 5 remedies, 4 remediation remedies for that church that are approved by EPA. But Union Pacific and Arcadis is the contracted company that is working and developing the remediation plan. When the church asks them, what do we do? They tell them, we don't know. They offer them no solutions. I want to hear solutions. I want the city to do public service announcements to this city about this situation. I want them to give a damn and correct what they have done. I want them to explain to us, how do you hide such a toxic situation from a community that's already in despair? And then on top of that, you bury the remaining sludge from the unlined sludge ponds at the refinery right next to this spill, right here by the rail yard. They took that sludge. It's called John Sludge Pond, and it's been buried there for years. Did they tell us that? No. And that was after 8,000 acres were contaminated on the north end, where a lot of Black and Hispanic families lived. They took that land by eminent domain and then moved that rest of that sludge over there. And now Dole and all of those places are there. And then the last thing, most recent thing, I won't say it's the last, but the most recent is, have you ever seen a 100-stall truck stop, Love's Truck Stop, that's only a little more than a football field away from a residential community? No. But that's what they've done to us. Yes. I'm not happy with the zoning board because they hid that agenda. There was nobody there except developers. Period. Nobody knows that Conejo, that's who that owns that franchise. That's who owns it. That property used to be in District 1. They rezoned it. They rezoned our districts, put it in District 6 so that we had no say about it. But in District 6, you have to travel at least 2 miles before you get to a residential home. So I'm very disappointed with the city, and I want them to step up first and admit they're wrong, and then begin to make it right, to earn back the trust of this community, because they have totally lost it.
And I just want to sort of wrap up with introducing yourself real quick.
I am Aujanae Bennet, president of Northeast Miller Neighborhood Association. Also serve on the executive board of WIN, the Wichita Independent Neighborhood Association. An advocate for environmental and other injustices in our city, and I am the minister of community outreach ministries at the Progressive Missionary Baptist Church.
Thank you. And Ms. Bennett is here at our January WIN meeting. So learn more about WIN, learn more about the issues that our city faces and that we need to get correction on. And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take
Thank
care.
you.